Nice, nice. Well, we want to welcome everybody this morning. My name is Marty Mascari. I'm with the North Central Texas Area Agency on Aging, and we are partnering with Legal Aid of Northwest Texas and Farwa Raza, right?
Farva, yeah.
Farva Raza is going to be our presenter today, but I've got one thing that I want to cover before we actually get started with today's presentation. We are really trying to reach out to you all to get your interest in other topics that we can cover. Because of COVID, we've done a lot of webinars and we've covered a lot of topics, but we want to get some feedback from you all. So I'm running a drawing for every time you enter a topic. I'm going to enter you in a drawing for three. We're going to do a drawing for three $50 Amazon gift cards. And you will receive the link. I'll put it in the chat here in just a minute, but then you'll receive it in a follow-up email at the end of the today's presentation with that link. And again, you got to do, each one is a new entry, but every time you enter, you'll get your name in the hat one more time for the gift cards, and we'll be running through the end of March, and then we'll do the drawing between and notify the winners by April the 7th. So we sure appreciate your input. I wanted to give you some incentive. I know everybody's busy with COVID and been overwhelmed this year, but we would love to hear from you all in what you would like us to present on. So that being said, I'm gonna welcome Farva, and I'm gonna let you have it.
All right, awesome. Thank you. Thanks, Marty, for working with us on this. So my name is Farva Raz. I'm an attorney at Legal Aid of Northwest Texas. I'm physically located in their Denton office, and we have offices all over 114 different states.
Your volume is, let me see if I can.
It's low.
It's just a little bit low.
Let's adjust that now, because is it better now? Can you hear me
better? It's much better now. Thank you. I just don't know how people's settings are, but that's great. Perfect. Thank you.
No, that's happened to me a lot. So again, like I was saying, I'm a staff attorney at Legal Aid of Northwest Texas, and I'm here to talk to you about some very basics of disaster response. Next slide, please, Marty. And I'm also the disaster response team leader at Legal Aid of Northwest Texas. So today we're going to talk about the very, very basics. We're going to talk about the Texas Comprehensive Energy Assistance Program, the Texas Rent Relief Program, FEMA, food stamps, and just generally the services that our agency offers as well. So this isn't going to be, just to kind of talk a little bit through the different programs that we have on the list there. I'm not going to get into a whole lot of detail today. So what I do want you guys to take away from today is just essentially what the different programs are, and really focus on if these are resources that you or your community partners or the members in your community that you work with can take advantage of, and really what the very basic requirements for the program are. So as far as like incredible detail, the way to cover all of that and get into incredible detail. So we're going to move on to one. So the CAAP is Texas Comprehensive Energy Assistance Program. And the idea is that everyone just be wary. I'm getting a note that says my internet connection's unstable. So the CEAP program is for folks that can't afford to pay off their energy expenses because they're low income. So really it is for folks that are low income. This is not a severe winter storm specific resource. This is generally a service and assistance that's available to people in the community. They provide more than financial assistance. They also provide an education. So how do you, reduce your energy bills, how energy conservation, financial management. They also provide case management. Next. This is not an entitlement program, so you get this if they have funds available. If their funds are not available, then you don't get it. And really, they do prioritize households where there is an elderly member over 60, disabled, and young children under 6. They do provide funding for both bearing energy expenses like your, bills, as well as for the repair and replacement of cooling and heating systems. There is an income eligibility requirement. So, this is essentially it. It's $21,660 for a household of 1. For 2, it's 29. For 3, it's 36 and change. So for each member, you just add the 7,480 to determine if that household is eligible to apply for this program. They also have to show that they're a resident of the state of Texas. These are the documents you need to submit. So have, either if you're applying or if you're having someone apply, make sure that they have these documents available. Incomplete applications are not considered, and remember that this isn't time sensitive, but there are only so many funds that they're dispersing. So the sooner you get your completed application in, the better chances you have of actually being able to make use of those funds. The way you apply is you call this 877-399-8939 number from your landline. And if you call from your landline, they can figure out which local area agency you need to go to. If you, on the other hand, are using a cell phone and you're not living in the county where your area code is, you're better off just dialing 211 to find out your local area agency. You can also fill out the application online at the benefitsapplication.com program CEAP. And you need to enter your zip code to get started. You can also do a PDF, print the application on the same site and submit that. So Texas Rent Relief is another program. And really, when we're talking about these resources, I'm thinking more of the current winter storm resources. So Texas Rent Relief is another resource for folks that were affected by the recent storms. At the moment, TDHCA has $918,238,535 available to help Texans pay rent and utility bills. That number may have changed this morning. They have a running ticker kind of at the top of their website that kind of tells you what the total amount is. The program is available to both landlords and tenants. It will pay for past due bills, and it'll pay for both rent and utility bills. So for those folks that are behind on their utility bills or are experiencing difficulty paying their utility bills related to the winter storm, this is a good place for them to go and see if they can get assistance as well. It'll pay for past due bills as far back as March 13, 2020. This is not a winter storm specific program either. This is a pandemic specific program though. As of March 8th, before March 8th, there was a priority, but as of March 8th, it's pretty much first come, first serve. The program will remain open until all funds are committed. And again, like I said, at the top of their website, you can kind of see how much money is still left. The rents can be 150% of the fair market rent. They can't exceed that, rather. So who is eligible to receive this assistance? You do have to show that you are you qualified for unemployment benefits, or due to or during the pandemic. During the pandemic, you experienced a reduction in income, incurred significant cost, or experienced other financial hardship. You also need to show that one or more individuals in the household is at risk of experiencing homelessness or housing instability, or is currently living in an unsafe or unhealthy housing condition, which could be just too many people having to crowd in and move into one home. It is also considered unsafe. So what they're looking for to show that you're at risk of experiencing homelessness or housing instability, you can show them past due rent or past due utility notices. You can also show them that you've been, you've been sued in eviction court and you're going to be evicted. This is an emergency funding program, and so therefore the evidence of immigration legal status is not required. Folks that are not eligible to receive assistance from the program are folks that are living in tenant-based voucher assistance programs or already receiving subsidies through the tenant-based voucher assistance program or the project-based Section 8 program, or are living in public housing. So for those folks, the best thing to do really is you need to go back and speak with your PHA or alert them to the fact that there is a drop in your income. And really what you would do is you would just do the income recertification. So like I said, the good thing about this program is both tenants can apply and landlords can apply. And what you do is when you go on the website, it's going to say tenant, landlord. So you just click on the button that says tenants and go ahead and complete your application. And you apply directly for your unpaid or future rent or utilities. Even if your landlord chooses not to cooperate, because folks that are tenants were running into that problem. So even if your landlord chooses not to cooperate, you can still submit the application, and you can get assistance for rent. If you're a landlord, you can set up your profile, and then you can go, if you have more than one property, you can go ahead and list more than one property and identify the tenants, and the system will send out a message to the tenants. If you don't have an application, then if you don't have an email for your tenant, then you may have to print it out and submit the application, with a physical signature from your tenant. Applicants are limited to 15 months of rent. They'll go as far back as March 13th, and they'll do the prorated rent for March. And the current and forward rent is limited to 3 months. And after those 3 months have passed, then you can go ahead and apply again and see if another 3 months are available. And it doesn't pay for arrears only. So in other words, if you've left the premises and all you have is, this rent that's owed, it's not going to cover that. To get more information or to apply for rental assistance, texasrentrelief.com. You can also call them, but really the fastest and the easiest way is texasrentrelief.com. You just go on their website, there is a fact page, and just like I said, those 2 links, and you can go ahead and apply. I do see that there are questions, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold off and see if I can get through the presentation first and then go ahead and answer your questions, but I see them popping up. Now to kind of go over FEMA, which is one of the biggest resource for folks that were affected by the winter storm. This is, of course, winter storm specific. So just generally, once there is a disaster, the state will issue an emergency declaration. And then there's like this calculation that's very financial in nature. And then the governor is going to send out a request to FEMA. And the only way that FEMA can assist is if there is a federal declaration. Now, typically, FEMA will provide, once that declaration's been made, they'll set up FEMA disaster recovery centers. Because of the pandemic, we're not seeing that anymore. So you may hear rumors of them. I think they have them somewhere in the southern part of Texas, but That's really just an individual decision that some folks on the ground in FEMA made, but really by and large, because of the pandemic, those physical structures, the DRCs no longer are available. But the IHP, the FEMA Individual and Household Program, is still up and running. Next. So these are the declared counties, and this is the date that they were declared. So if you go on if you look at the FEMA map of what's covered, it's essentially pretty much all of eastern. It's like if you could split Texas into half, the eastern part of Texas is by and large what's covered. There's some, stray counties on this side, pretty much nothing, I think, in the Panhandle. And so you really have to look at that and kind of decide whether you're a declared county or not. Now, do not give up. If you do see need in your county and you are not a covered county, reach out. I should have included that link in here, but I'm realizing now that I forgot to do that. But so just reach out. You can, send me an email, or you can send Marty an email, and I'll hopefully you can forward it to me. I'll include my email in the chat at the end of this presentation. But if you are seeing that you're a county that's not a purple county, because it's the areas that are covered are purplish pink. So if you're not one of those counties, but you have need, reach out. We're going to try and see if we can assist with that. But, we can send you the links where you can go ahead and note down your need, and that might change the situation for your county and the residents there. But at the moment, these are the counties that have been declared and are receiving the IHP. So when you apply for FEMA, one of the things that you want to know is you want to make sure is you have a phone number where you can be contacted, your address at the time of the disaster, and an address where you're staying now, because we recognize that folks are having to move. If you have your Social Security number available, include that, but it's not an absolute requirement. A general list of damage and losses. The thing to know is FEMA's also, when they're sending the investigators out, they're not physically showing up to your home the same way. The pandemic has affected a lot of the way that things are being done. A lot of it's being done remotely. So you definitely need a list of those damages and losses, because you're probably going to be having a phone conference. They said there is video conferencing, but it's not something that happens all the time. So in all likelihood, what you're going to receive is a phone conference. And if you're insured, the insurance policy number and the agent or company name. So again, like I was talking about, what are these resources for? What's covered? What can you apply for with FEMA? Is it worth it to set up this account and make this application? So these are the kind of things I just wanted to generally articulate what's being covered in Texas. They can assist with the repair of damage related to burst pipes, because that's been very prevalent. Anything that was damaged as a result of the disaster, the storms, the heating, the ventilating, the air conditioning systems, refrigerators, stoves, electrical, plumbing. If the leaks in your roof caused plumbing or wiring to be disturbed, those may be covered. Disaster damaged subfloors, broken windows as a consequence of the storm. So all of these things, if they were related to the winter storms, may be covered. They can also, the survivors who've incurred uninsured lodging expenses and who've not had disaster-related damage to their home can also be eligible for reimbursement now. So the standard period for that, though, is February 11th through February 28th. So you have to have been lodging in those areas during that time. There is also rental assistance that's available for alternative housing for applicants whose homes were made uninhabitable by the disaster. So yeah, those are things that are covered with regard to housing. Next. Personal property is also covered. For repair and for the repair and replacement uninsured disaster damaged personal property. So, you know, if you needed, you know, your computer for school and that's been damaged, this is kind of where you would make that application, and same with work. Miscellaneous items, you know, generators is really limited, but, you know, some folks can apply for that. And again, they're really looking at, it needs to be medically required. So they'll reimburse you for those too. Transportation assistance, primary vehicles that are damaged by the disaster, including from fallen trees. And if your car was in an accident caused by the unsafe road conditions, you know, and it is a primary vehicle, you can apply for that as well. Again, you can't double dip, but I'll get into that later. There is medical and dental assistance also, and child care assistance as well. But yeah, so those are also covered. Next. So if you can look at it, you know, if I could put everything down kind of in a circle, this is essentially what the IHP program is. So you see those three light blue parts, that's the IHP. And then the dark blue, that's the SBA loan. That's kind of how FEMA's assistance ends up being split up. And the IHP is the stuff that I just talked about. And I'll go into it in greater detail. Next. So FEMA collaborates with the Small Business Administration in determining applicant eligibility for some types of assistance. The SBA provides low interest disaster loans to applicants who've sustained damage in a disaster. You have to meet their minimum income test to be considered for a loan, and FEMA will make the referral to the SBA. You don't have to accept that loan if that's not something that you want, but they will make that they will make that referral. And you know, when they make that referral, they're looking to see if your income meets the SBA minimum requirements. The IHP program, you know, the three, you know, the light blue parts of that circle, they provide financial help and direct services to eligible individuals and households who have uninsured or underinsured necessary expenses and serious needs. The IHP program is housing assistance and other needs assistance. It's kind of how it's broken down. So, you know, we kind of talked about what they're providing, examples of what they're providing in Texas for the winter storms, but very generally, this is kind of what FEMA provides under the IHP assistance. The housing assistance is going to be financial, lodging reimbursement, rental assistance, repair, replacement. Direct housing assistance is going to be multifamily lease and repair, transportable temporary housing units, direct lease, permanent housing construction. Deductibles are not covered, but I'll get into that. I see questions popping up. Other needs assistance will cover things like, and we talked about what winter storm specific other needs earlier as well in Texas, but generally this is what they cover. So if you notice, there's some that are SBA dependent, and then there is non-SBA dependent. So it doesn't matter whether you've accepted that loan with the SBA or not. So the ONA that is SBA dependent is personal property, moving and storage expenses, transportation, group flood insurance. And then funeral, burial, medical, disaster needs, related childcare costs, critical needs assistance, is also non-SBA dependent. The SBA home disaster loans are fixed loans. They're available when no credit's available elsewhere. It's 1.75%. When credit is available elsewhere, it's 3.5%. There are 30 years based on each borrower's ability to pay. The limit is $200,000 and $40,000 for repair and replace. Okay, so FEMA and Texas HHSC work on these services together. FEMA will handle the housing assistance, and Texas Health and Human Services handles the O&A part of it. However, the appeal process is all handled through FEMA, even if HHSC is the one that's making your final decision. Next. So after you've submitted the application, you do need to establish ownership and occupancy. They'll inspect the property to see if it's habitable or not. Remember, a lot of that's happening remotely. They'll look to see if it needs repair. Is there any property damage? There is normally a determination letter within 10 days of inspection. You have to have submitted your appeal within 60 days of the date of the letter. And then there is a response to FEMA within 30 days if there is a request for additional documents or evidence, and then there is recertifications. Next. Benefits do not count against other types of federal mean tested aid. So if you're getting SSI, for instance, just be aware that this is not going to count against it. They can only be used for the intended purpose. So if you called to fix this part of your house, you can't go on and then just do a different part. So it has to be for the purpose that it was intended. You need to keep all bills and receipts, because in case if FEMA audits and asks for proof of the money that was spent, you want to be able to show them that. You can appeal the amount of benefits that's granted, so you can ask for more. You can appeal the denials, or like I said, the amount that you're granted, 60 days from the date of decision letter. So if it's anything after that, you're gonna have to show good cause. The appeal in letter format, you need to include your appeal, supporting documents. You need a declaration under penalty of perjury. You need to ask for a copy of the file that they have on you. And that helps you to, better respond and make a better appeal. They have 90 days to make a decision, and the appeal is effectively denied after the 90 days if there has been no response from FEMA as a matter of law. So you definitely want, denials. These are the common reasons for the denial. Insured loss, you had insurance coverage. You cannot double dip. So if your insurance is covering something, you can't ask FEMA to pay for it by law. That's not something that you can do. Damages to the home are not caused by the disaster. There was like a pre-existing problem, or you deferred your maintenance and that's what caused it. This is a secondary property or a vacation home, or you didn't sustain sufficient damage to the essential living areas or personal property. It's a shared household. Occupancy is not verified at the time of disaster. Ownership at the time of disaster was not verified. Next. So FEMA will generally pay assistance only to one head of household from pre-disaster residents. So problems arise when a family is separated by the disaster and it is, you know, there's a family violence situation. So what you want to do is you want to submit supplemental documentation to note this separation, especially if the separation occurred prior to the disaster. You are also able to submit unsworn declarations of family violence. Next. So appeals for proof of ownership, owner-occupied residence definition is owner, life estate holder, or responsible for taxes, major maintenance, and not a renter. There's very few exceptions. Verification of ownership during inspection or through an automated public records search, you know, is really the easiest way to do it. Disaster survivor can also provide FEMA with documentation to show ownership that reflects the name of the applicant or co-applicant registering for assistance if a minor child is registering for assistance. The document must be an adult co-applicant's name. The address and damaged pre-disaster residence and a date prior to the disaster incident period. So obviously you can't, you know, show that you moved into this particular place after the disaster. Title clearing work, probate wills, interstate succession, all of those things will be, are things that you can submit to document proof of ownership. Deed, official, you know, deed or an official record. It has to be current and effective during the disaster incident period. Mortgage documentation, you know, it's statement or escrow analysis. You need to submit the most recent one within 3 months of the disaster. And then escrow docs from the last quarter. Other real estate insurance documentation, property insurance documentation, including your bills and payment records, structural insurance documents, bills and payment records, and they also need to be within 3 months of the disaster incident period. Manufactured or mobile homes, statement of ownership and location. See if you can get on the TDHCA website and, you know, find the documents you're looking for to show proof of ownership. They may accept an affidavit from the owner listed on TDHCA's website that the home was sold to the applicant and the mobile home's current address, VIN number, and the date of sale. How to apply for FEMA. So now the fastest and the easiest way to apply is disasterassistance.gov. You hit the apply online button and just make sure you put down the cause of damage as snow or ice. So even if your apartment was flooded, even if your home was flooded, don't put down flooding, put down snow or ice. They've figured out you know, how to weed those out, but it's going to take a little bit longer for them to do that if you accidentally put down flooding. So just put down snow or ice. That's the cause of the damage. You do need to file a claim with your insurance company as soon as possible, because again, FEMA cannot duplicate benefits for losses that are covered by your insurance company. You can also call 800-621-3362 from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. daily. And if you are using relay services such as a video phone, then you need to update FEMA with the specific number that's assigned to that service. The deadline to apply is 60 days from the date of federal declaration. And late applications are only accepted if there is good cause shown. So make sure if you are going to apply, set that account up, even if you're not really sure, because you want to make sure it's within that 60-day. And make sure you write down your FEMA assigned application number. You want to hold on to that somewhere outside of your computer. Food stamp benefits that are available at the moment, if if you lost food over the course of the winter storm, you can go to your local food pantries that may be really the only thing you can do unless you were receiving SNAP benefits, and they are allowing you to replace those benefits for lost or destroyed food due to the winter severe winter weather, and unfortunately, really the only way to apply, the best way to apply for that is by calling 211 and selecting the option 2. And you can download Form H1855. I know that some people have trouble with downloading this form. It's not really very good. It's not very available on a smartphone, and so it can kind of get a little tricky, but if you can somehow print that form, you can mail or fax that in to Texas Health and Human Services as well. So Legal Aid of Northwest Texas, also LANWIT, that's what we normally call it, LANWIT locally, has compiled a list of resources to help you, find disaster-related information quickly, and we do update after a disaster. So you can go to our website. There's going to be a disaster response page. So certainly our website has a whole lot of information on it that's helpful. There's videos for all kinds of legal issues, not really, some of them specific to the disaster, but some not so much. But the disaster response page is a good place to look at for updates. We also have a disaster intake line, and that's the 855-548-8457 number. And that is for disaster-related legal issues. You can call that number. Sometimes we call it a hotline, but it's really not a hotline. You have to leave a message and you'll get a response within 24 hours of you having left that response, unless you left it on a Friday. But yeah. Very generally, Legal Aid of Northwest Texas is a nonprofit, and we are available in 114 different counties. That's our service area. We don't have an office in each one of the counties, but we do service 114 counties. We provide free legal services to eligible low-income clients in North and West Texas. We also offer help with a variety of legal matters. It's, civil legal matters, primarily wills, federal tax, public benefits, foreclosure prevention, consumer protection, housing, landlord-tenant matters, disaster-related legal issues, expunctions, non-disclosures. So there's, a myriad of civil legal issues that we address, and it's a good idea to go check out our website to see if the legal issue that you're experiencing is something that we can help with. Okay. So at the moment, our offices are temporarily closed, and they're closed until March 31st. You can go on our website, landwit.org, for more information to find out. Our clinics and in-person intake and outreach are also canceled for the most part. There are exceptions, so just go on to the landwit.org website for updates about that. And the same with our offices. For the most part, they're closed with limited exceptions. You can apply for services generally that are for services that are not disaster related at landwit.org. And you can look up your local office and call the local office, leave a message, and they'll follow up. Or you can just go to landwit.org and apply online. We also have a legal aid line number that we've made available to people, 888-529-5277, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. I should say those hours have been extended for some of the days, so you want to definitely go to landwit.org to look at the most updated hours. We do extend them for some days, but generally, if you're calling between 9 and 4, you should be safe Monday through Friday, but for extended hours, check out our website because those do change. And again, I call it the disaster hotline, but really it's our disaster intake line. I should have edited that. Is 855-548-8457. So if you know folks that have Winter Storm Uri related legal issues, you can direct them to that hotline number. And I think that's it for me. I think it's Marty, I think the next screen's all you.
It is. Thank you. I want to ask you a couple of things before we go on to the rest. Let's talk about the questions and
Yeah, I saw those.
if you're, could you want to go through those while I'm talking about this and then answer them afterwards?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Let
Okay,
me look at those.
I'm going to go through these slides real quick. I again am with the North Central Texas Area Agency on Aging, and I just want to make you aware that we have several other webinars coming up, and so the next few slides really talk about that and the fact that several of you have joined us since we started, and I went over this at the beginning. I'm going to go over this again. We are searching for your topics of interest, things that you're interested in us presenting webinars on, and so for this month, we're going to let you enter a drawing for every time you submit a topic and a brief description of what you want covered in that topic. Each time you submit one, you can submit it as many times as you want. Your name's going to be put in a drawing after the end of the month, and we're going to draw for three $50 Amazon gift cards. So I will be sending out a follow-up email after this, and when I send out the follow-up email, that will have the link in it, and I encourage you to help us out. We really want to bring to you what the information that you're needing to either help yourself or help the people you serve or family members, and so this helps us a lot to understand what you guys are looking for and needing at this point in time. With that said, we have a few webinars coming up. Next week we have smartphone features that may save your life. If you don't have information on these and you want to register, please just email me and I will send you the flyer, and the flyer has the link for registration on it. My email address is at the bottom here. You probably have my email address. I'm assuming most of you do already, but if not, it's at the bottom of these slides. And just so you know, these slides are available to you. The link should have been sent out at the bottom of your reminder email an hour before we started this morning, unless, of course, you registered overnight or this morning. It would have gone out a little bit later, but you should have the link to download these slides in PDF format. And also in the chat, I have put the link if you want to grab that, if you're interested in, and you can download all of today's slides in PDF format. The next one we're going to be doing is Caregiving is Hard. Get the help you need. That's going to be Wednesday, March 24th. We'd love to have you join us for that. This has been a series we've been doing, or this is actually a new series we're doing with Cigna, and I think it's going to be great information. My loved one has just passed. Now what? A 42-point checklist of what will or has to happen. We'll be doing that on the 25th. And finally, reducing care partner stress and resources to help on April 13th. We're going to have several more coming up. Many of the ones I've just mentioned here are actually part of a series that we're doing, and so each one of those will either be monthly or every other month. So what I'll do is that's a good point. When I do the follow-up email, I'll go ahead and include links to the flyers for each of these upcoming webinars, so that you guys have that information and are able to access that right away. I'll send that in the follow-up email. Farwa, are you are you in a position to take questions, or you need a minute?
You know what I want to say. I'm seeing a lot of them, so I'm gonna try and be general and try and be specific at the same time. What I cannot do is answer, you know, fact specific questions, because we cannot offer advice when we do these presentations, unfortunately. You're welcome to look at our website. You're also welcome to look at the websites of the agencies I talked about. I do not represent FEMA. I'm not, you know, I really can't speak to what and why FEMA does what they do. I can just get you information about that. And if you have been receiving denials and you've submitted applications and you've been receiving denials of those applications, you need to look at why the reason for the denial is noted in that letter. And you also need to be wary that you have a right to appeal, and you should do so in that within that 60-day time frame. So make sure you look at your denial and submit an appeal. As far as what's typically covered, and again, I can't go into the specifics of what's covered, but they are going to look to see if it's your living space, if it's an essential living space. So those are kind of what they're looking at. Also, you know, they're also, you know, if that living space is insured and what the insurance information is. As far as the rental assistance, it does go back to March 13th, because that's essentially, you know, it is a pandemic specific resource. So that's why it goes that far back. You can be, if you are, I didn't talk about that in here because again, there's only so much that I can talk about. There is also the eviction diversion program. So if you're in court, you can look into the eviction diversion program. If you happen to be, regardless of whether you're landlord or tenant, you can take advantage of the Texas Rent Relief website and see if you can submit that application in. Like I said, you can do it both by, you know, going on the website and submitting the application, or you can go ahead and submit the application by making that phone call. What else was there? I see other.
I have a couple of questions for you.
Yeah,
If I could
go
ask
ahead.
while you're looking at it.
There you go.
Number one is the disaster map. Do you have a copy of that I could include in the a link to that I could include in the follow-up email that I send out? And you can send that to me after we're done, but if you have that.
Yeah, I do have that, and I tried to cut and paste it into the PowerPoint and I wasn't able to. So what I can do is I can send you the link, and then you can send that to people and they can see if they're part of the covered area. And then there is another website where you can go in and put in, you know, because I know someone had asked about, followed up when I talked about counties that are not covered. So I'll send you that link as well.
Perfect.
And so people can go ahead and put in their information.
The other question I have for you is, if I could, is, you know, we've talked about a few pandemic related resources here that are money, but also in creatively applying for those for people that have really storm damage, and how to look at creatively applying for the things that are available, even though they may not be specifically
for the winter storm,
designated for the winter storm.
Yeah, I mean, so just know that there is all kinds of, you know, resources available. And that kind of was the point of this presentation, is that maybe that the resource you're looking for is specific to your need. And that's just been around since before the pandemic, that's been around since before the storms. And so you may be able to look to that resource to address your need. The other thing may be, you know, there are resources that have been made available now because of the pandemic that you may be able to use for your for a damage or need that was created as a consequence of Hurricane Uri. So, for instance, you know, if you know that you're going to receive a utility bill and you're going to be behind in utility bills, and it really was because of the winter storm, but nevertheless, you're behind on utility bills. you can definitely look to Texas Rent Relief and see if they will provide you that assistance. When I tell you to apply for these, to apply for these resources, I can't guarantee that they're going to respond and provide you those resources. That you may receive denials, and that typically with the denials, you will also receive information on why you're denied and how you go ahead and appeal. And you can absolutely go ahead and make that appeal application. So just know that of these resources that are available, some of them are financial in nature. Ours is, for instance, legal assistance. That's what we provide. It's not a financial resource, but it's legal assistance. We provide legal advice. We sometimes provide brief service. We sometimes provide full representation. And a lot of times that advice and representation can very easily be for appeal hearings. So just be aware that there is a lot of different types of resources that are shared, and you kind of have to navigate through those to see what's best for you, and also navigate through those to see what's best for maybe the clientele you serve or the community that you serve.
One of the things that I received, we reached out to one of the state representatives when we were trying to put this together. One thing I want to ask is, could you also include the link to FEMA where people can ask their questions to FEMA that they want to ask to a FEMA representative? Do you have a link to a contact there?
So not really. I mean, I can give you the information that's available, unfortunately, on their website for
Okay.
the general population.
That's great. We'll just put that in there. If we don't have anything else, that's great. But when I reached out to the state representative, they had sent me a piece of or I guess it was a press release back where the one of the committees that was working with ERCOT in regards to how crazy this whole thing has been and the crazy utility bills, somehow or another they've put pressure on them to reduce the amount of the cost from 16 billion down to I think it's 3.4 billion. And so they're working on trying to mitigate the extent of the electric bill, the huge electric bills and that kind of thing. But just so you know, this has been a moving target as we've been trying to put this together in the last week, because nobody really has a clear answer. We've been trying to find, I have contacted several people at the state. We've been trying to get solid information, and it's a lot of finger pointing. Well, we don't do it, but go there. We don't do it, but go there. And so understand that we're trying to give you the best information we can at the time. And we were on the phone with people as late as yesterday with one of the representative's office staff was on the phone with us yesterday trying to get us more information, and what we have here is what's available, because we just weren't able to we thought at first we were told FEMA was going to pay electric bills, and then we told FEMA's not going to pay electric bills. Then we were pointed to the Texas Rent Relief website for those electric bills, and I think it's just the issue is going to be getting creative in how you make those applications, because knowing that the Texas Rent Relief program is a pandemic program, and how do you get creative in applying, because we are still in a pandemic and you have an electric bill that you can't pay. So it falls under the pandemic. Just,
right.
It doesn't matter whether it was storm related or not. It just matters that we're still in a pandemic, and because of the pandemic, you have a financial hardship. And so, I know some of this stuff isn't clear, but I just wanted to point that out.
Right. And the other thing to know is you do want to look at the eligibility requirements for each program. So those are going to be different for each one of them, right? So for instance, CAP is going to be looking at, whether you have a disabled, they're going to prioritize folks that have a disability, folks that are elderly, folks that are with young children in the family, and they are looking at very strict income guidelines. Texas Rent Relief, on the other hand, is going to want to know whether did you experience unemployment, did you experience a loss of income essentially during the course of the hardship. So there's different eligibility requirements for each one of the programs, and that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today was, just understand that there are different resources, but then there's different eligibility requirements for each one of them. So even though you may have a need and you think, okay, well, this is the place that can pay it, do you meet the eligibility requirements for that program? You may not, so just be mindful of that as well. The other thing, to kind of follow up with what Marty said, this is a very fluid situation. The other part of this is a very unique situation. It's historic. A lot of the things that are happening, we don't really have reference for. So I can give you the FEMA facts and numbers for 2019. Things are very different in 2020, and things are so much more different in 2021. So just understand, and I guess I'm asking for a little bit of grace in the sense that this is fluid, this is changing very rapidly, and we are keeping up with as much of it as we possibly can. So definitely keep up with our website. That's a good place to keep up with those updates. It's also a good idea to keep up with the specific agencies, to look at their websites for what's going on, what's new, what's happening, what's changed, because those things are changing very, very rapidly. And we don't have, unfortunately, the benefit to look at history for precedents, because in the immediate past, this hasn't happened. We haven't been in the middle of a pandemic experiencing a winter storm where there was a power outage. So, I mean, this is very unprecedented. And so just even with the deadlines, I know a lot of folks are asking me, well, this is when I did this, when do I hear back from them? The timelines are evolving as a consequence of everything that's happening, partly because of the pandemic, then add to that the storm, add to that, the power outages. So just be aware of the fact that things are moving, and there are a lot of moving parts here, and all agencies that are in Texas are affected by all of the things that are happening right now. So we are in very peculiar times, and so not just for our agency, but just for all of the agencies you're dealing with, just think grace. That is going to be an important part of it.
I want to answer. Somebody just put up a question about, is there any relief for people that are behind in their mortgages? And there is. I will include that link. There was a specific pot of money through the state that was specifically designated for that. I will include the link to that in the follow-up email.
Yeah, and I apologize, I couldn't share absolutely everything with you. There is, TDA has made a number of programs available. And yeah, there is assistance for folks that are behind as well, but like Marty said, and I wasn't able to talk about that today, but yeah, definitely check out the TDHCA website for more on that as well.
Very good. Well, does any, I know you've answered a lot of the questions. We're at the end of the time. I want to thank you so much. Do you have anything else you want to add, Fawa, before we get off the line?
No, no. I mean, I'm sorry that I couldn't get to everyone's questions today, but hope again, like I said, if you think that you need those services, definitely check out each one of the agencies' website, including our own, for updates. Thank you all. I hope this was helpful.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Farwa. Thank you all for joining us. We are recording this. You will receive a link to the recording in a few days, but you'll receive a follow-up email from me later today with the things we discussed about following up with you on. The link for the recording will probably go out the beginning of next week. Thank you all for joining us. We look forward to you joining us for some other webinars. We'd love to have you. And thanks you, Farwa.
Thanks, guys. Thanks. Bye, guys.
Y'all have a great day.